I'm Vardha Sharma, editor Newsband, daily English newspaper of Navi Mumbai. As we all know that while the COVID-19 positive cases are receding in the second wave, but the medical experts have warned of the possible third wave. And it is also being said that children are likely to be affected more in the third wave. To understand this, we have a panel of doctors from MGM Hospital CBT Belapur. We have with us Dr. Sagar Sinha, who is the chief intensivist at MGM Hospital CBT. He is also in charge of management of COVID cases admitted at MGM Hospital and College, Navi Mumbai. We have with us Dr. Jitendra Gavani, who is the Professor of Pediatrics, MGM Medical College. He is also the president of IAP Navi Mumbai and is member of Pediatric Task Force, Government of Maharashtra. Dr. Vijay Mahadik is the hospital director at MGM Hospital CBT Belapur. Welcome all the panelists.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Dr. Sagar Sinha, I'll start with you. We keep on hearing about the variants and also the mutation. So first of all, we would like to know what is a variant and what variants should be worried about currently.
Right. So, ma'am, I think that is the question on everyone's mind. When we had this pandemic start, it was identified by itself as the novel coronavirus. And the nomenclature is NCOV 2019. So that was the original virus as such. Now, mutations are very common in nature, especially for viruses, and the viruses keep evolving. The viruses have basically two components. One is the core of the virus, and the other is the surrounding protein around the virus. And usually the variants are identified in their mutations by a change in one of the two aspects of it. So you can have minor mutations and you can have major mutations. So when these variants are basically a change in the structural aspect of the virus, and essentially they can hamper or they can change the properties of the virus. Now, when we look at the properties of the virus, essentially we're looking at two things: whether a variant or the mutation in it makes it more transmissible, that is, can other people get more infected by it? And secondly, and the more worrying question is that does this cause a more severe form of the disease? So these mutants and variants are being tracked since the very start of the pandemic. Originally, they were called or identified by the countries in which they originated. Now, the WHO has given a better terminology to this and tried to make a distinction between variants of interest and variants of concern. What we see normally in the news is the UK variant or the South African variant. And then, of course, there was the Brazilian variant and the Indian variant. Now, this is the nomenclature has been changed to Alpha, Beta, and obviously the Indian one now with the right name is the Delta variant. So the variants are essentially mutations in the virus. And basically these variants are what we are more worried about right now is they can still be more transmissible. And a long-term factor as we go along would be, can these variants even escape and the patients who are already vaccinated? So the concern now is that what the variants of concern essentially are the ones that even if you are vaccinated, does that necessarily protect you against the virus? So in brief, this is what a variant is: a variant of interest and a variant of concern.
I see. And which variants should be more worried about, especially in the present scenario?
So the biggest concern, obviously, in fact, the entire second wave, one of the attributable factors which we understand now was this Delta variant, which is the B1617 and the B1617.2. Basically, the problem was that it made the virus very transmissible. So essentially that even patients, well, of course, social distancing was responsible or a failure thereof. But if it's more transmissible, it can become more dangerous. So the Delta variant, interestingly now, the Delta variant as of today is the dominant variant worldwide. It is estimated now that 95% of Asia and Europe, all new cases are from the Delta variant. 50% of the current American cases are from the Delta variant. So this is the concern about the variants, and the latest variant which is now being reported is a variant known as Lambda, which is coming out of Peru. So essentially, it again is a nomenclature. It does not change the fact that we should still get everyone vaccinated and everyone must wear the mask.
Dr. Gavane, how severe will be the third wave in comparison to the first two waves? And will the children be affected the most? Because that is the general concern.
Yeah. So usually whenever pandemics struck the world, it usually comes in waves, means multiple cases coming together in a short span that we call as a wave. And over a period of time, multiple like one, first, second, third wave comes. In 1918 and 1919 Spanish flu, there were two waves which came in India. So the usual trend is that with the increasing number of waves, the cases come down and the severity also goes down, unless the virus decides to make into a severe form, into a mutation like Delta plus and Lambda, what we are talking. If that happens, then the cases can be severe in subsequent waves. But the number usually comes down because by then we get vaccinated or naturally infected with the disease. So we are expecting third wave to be not as high as in numbers compared to the second wave, but severity can be more because variants are coming, as Dr. Sagar said.
But as medical experts have warned that probably children may get more affected compared to people from other age groups. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, so actually the variant attacks the susceptible population. Now what we have observed in first wave and second wave, schools were closed, children were tightly homebound, and only adults were moving for essential things. So most of the time in first wave, the senior citizens more than 60 years were suffering. Then in second wave, more adults went for the work, and from 30 years onwards till 60 years, we saw many cases. So what remains now is the less than 18-year chunk of the population who is not either infected or they have not been vaccinated. So this population will be a susceptible population, and that's why. And now we are thinking of opening the school and all. That will increase the chances of kids below 18 years to get affected. Although the number percent wise, it will be like 100 out of 100 cases. In first wave, we got less than 5% kids. In second wave, up to 10% we saw kids suffering. So percentage will increase. It will not be entirely a pediatric wave. So still we will get adults only, but percentage of pediatric cases will be high.
So what is the presentation of COVID disease in children? How is it different from the people from other age groups?
Yeah, so usually children gets multiple viral infections every year below 10 years of age. They catch viral infections, cough, cold, coryza, and these symptoms comes in them very frequently. So COVID will not be different in them. So most of the children will get a very mild disease. Either they will be asymptomatic, that means they will not realize that they had got a COVID, or they will have just a mild fever, cough, cold, which will not which will be like any other flu. So it is although the cases will be more, the severity and the symptomatology will be mild and asymptomatic only, 95% of them. Only few, like 3 to 4% will have a moderate category which may require hospitalization, and out of that, very less than 1% may require ICU care.
Dr. Mahadik, Ministry of Health, Government of India has termed Delta Plus as the variant of concern, as Dr. Sinha has also pointed out. So how and why do we call the new virus as the variant of concern?
First of all, let me thank you for providing me this opportunity to be part of this panel. Thank you. Having said that, Ministry of Health finds this variant Delta Plus to be a virus or to be a variant of concern, because it is that it has evidence to suggest that the that the transmission of the COVID, this wave will be higher. It will be more. Secondly, perhaps severity will be more. And third, most important, that this virus may not be amenable or this infection may not be protected against existing antibodies or vaccine. This is why the Ministry of Health considers this variant as a variant of concern.
Dr. Sinha, is the health care system well prepared to deal or cope up with the various variants and also the waves?
Think that is the most important question, because that is what ultimately all this comes down to. So, a concept which got very popular on was flatten the curve. Now, the flatten the curve concept is very simple. Like if you can see that line behind me, if that is the capacity of your healthcare system, and then you have a wave like this, essentially you have exceeded the capacity of the healthcare system. There are two things. Either you flatten the curve, that means you reduce transmissibility and try to get those cases over a large period of time, or you raise the bar, you improve the healthcare system. Now, because of the second wave, basically we did have a lot of issues in terms of resources, even things like oxygen. But I think the lessons of the second wave are not lost on us as a city, as the state, and as the country. And I am quite optimistic that after what we have been through in the last essentially 4-6 months, I think we will be able to manage whatever comes next. I think the healthcare system augmented really very quickly. The oxygen plants, like LPA plants, are being now set up across various hospitals. So I think there's a lot of movement across the entire country. So again, it depends whether the cases come on too fast, too quickly. And like I said, then the capacity of the healthcare system is breached. So if cases do come, cases will come, as long as they are in that demand supply ratio, then I think things would be okay. Again, that there is a very big difference in Maharashtra with the other states, and even in Maharashtra itself, there's a disparity between the rural and the urban areas. So that is a tough question. I think that is where the government officials, and I think the Prime Minister also issued a statement, I believe yesterday, which I think even the PMO and the government of India, basically, someone made a comment that people are treating the third wave like a weather update. Everyone knows it's there, but no one wants to do anything about it. So I think there's also onus of responsibility on the citizens, vaccinated or not. Keep your masks on and try to maintain social distancing. I think irrespective of the first, second, third, fourth, fifth waves to come, I think it's also on us to be responsible.
Dr. Gavane, as Dr. Sinha said, of course, maintaining and adhering to COVID safety protocols is essential. What are the other measures that can be undertaken to prevent COVID-19 among children?
Yes. Whenever there is a change in the mutation, then we look at the mutation in 3-4 aspects. Whether epidemiology is changing of that virus. That means whether in previous wave, as we said, it was more than 60 years, and now it is younger children or younger population. That is the first we look about the variant. So the second we see lethality. That means whether it will be severe than the previous one. Then third we see about the transmissibility, whether the transmission from one person to other will be more. So Delta Plus is a variant of concern. That the reason is transmissibility is very high. The R0, what we call one person infecting how many people, is as high as 7 in Delta Plus variant. So one person can affect 7 will further go on, that chain reaction will keep on happening. And fourth is the drug resistance, because hardly any specific drugs are there, so we are not worried about drug resistance. So all these factors, when we take together, we need to protect our children, because as I said, they are the susceptible population. We have a vaccine against them? No, we don't have a vaccine which is approved for use in children as of now below 18 years of age. So what we need to do? We need to have a cocoon strategy. Cocoon strategy means what? The people around the children who are there in the community, they themselves should protect themselves so that they will not get the disease at home. So primary prevention method in children will be the prevention of COVID in adults by vaccinating them urgently, by making them follow the COVID appropriate behavior all the time, and inculcating the habits in student or children also about the SMS, as Sagar is stressing on the safe distance, mass sanitation. Also, when we are planning for school opening, there should be a guideline how to go about it in a staggered manner. That also should be looked at, and this way we can definitely conquer this disease and prevent the spread in children.
And what are usually the post-COVID-19 symptoms among children?
Yeah, so during COVID, usually the children will not have a severe disease, as I already said. It will be a mild disease 95% of the time, and remaining few may require a little care in hospital setting. But in some children, the immunological reaction comes later. That is 15 days after COVID to up to 3 months after the COVID. They develop fever, rash, abdominal pain, vomiting, red eyes, red lips. What we call it is a multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children related to COVID. So this is called as MISC. And in the newborns also, if mother has got COVID and she passes the antibodies to the baby, and baby also develops this multisystem, that we call as a MISN, multisystem inflammatory syndrome in neonate. So this can happen up to 3 months of age. And problem here is because many of the children were asymptomatic in their primary infection, 95%. So they are not aware that they had got COVID in the past. And they come directly in MISC and MISN. So that time, every pediatrician's responsibility is that high index of suspicion in every case of fever and rash. We need to be careful and ruling out whether this is a post-COVID, which they got 2-3 months back. So these are the two things. Out of 500 children who got COVID, 1 or 2 people may get. It's not a high number, but it is a serious complication.
Dr. Maharik, what are the other views of the medical experts with regards to the Delta Plus being the variant of concern?
Perhaps Dr. Sagar Sinha and Dr. Jiten will agree with me that most of the data that we share about Delta Plus in India is based on perhaps a very small sample. Not enough data still exists as to how Delta variant will affect the population. Secondly, we do not know we know very little about the Delta Plus virus at the moment. We do not know whether the past infection, the antibodies resulting from the past infection, how would they react to the Delta Plus virus. We do not know as to how vaccine will, what sort of a protection vaccine will provide against Delta Plus. So most of there are a number of virologists and epidemiologists who feel that nothing can be said at the moment definitely about the outcome of Delta Plus infection in the population at the moment. We need to wait. We need to wait till we have developed enough data, and in all likelihood, the predicted outcome may not be as severe and as severe as being made out at the moment. That is the general opinion of number of virologists and epidemiologists.
Dr. Sinha, the Delta Plus variant, I mean, are the symptoms same, or are there any visible changes that are being seen?
Yeah. So this was in fact a great focus of investigation. The American CDC is also, they have released their first very limited data in their patients in the West. And some of the arguments by the Indian experts, including AIMS as well as ICMR, there is a consensus that the broad symptoms remain the same. Basically, sore throat, cough and breathlessness, that can be a standard thing like fever. What everybody is agreeing on in general is that newer symptoms like runny nose, which were less common in the original wave, that could be more associated this time. And secondly, anosmia, which is the loss of smell, which was seen very often in the first wave. It was seen less, but there isn't enough data as yet. A lot of it has to do with there could be different symptoms in different countries, and the number of patients is so very little. It's very difficult for us to give conclusive evidence that whether the symptoms have changed. But what has not changed is that yes, COVID still remains a primarily respiratory, a lung disease. Yes, what has not been proven is that is this variant making patients more critical? Well, that data does not exist, that this is a more dangerous in that form. That being said, that yes, the Delta variant is going to pose a very great risk, especially to the susceptible population, which obviously in our country, we have a large number of vaccinated people still to go.
We have
Just,
heard, yes.
I'd like to have a small word with Sagar Sinha on this. Sagar Sinha, what we at the moment are having is the Delta virus. The Delta virus wave, isn't it? That is what we
Yes.
are passing through. And it's now subsiding. It's now subsiding. What we are seeing is a low ebb, you see. And what if we have to have the third wave, it would be another variant. And the variant that we are talking about is Delta Plus. Is it correct?
Yes, sir. So that is very likely. So the problem is that by the time the samples get isolated, it's probably already a month into the new peak. So I think, sir, Delta Plus in India, they've only confirmed about, I think, less than 50 cases. But that does not mean it already probably could be circulating, and by the time it's picked up. For example, so the US now, the US is now reporting 50% Delta, because now they are understanding that, look, the new rise in cases in the US is because of Delta. So by the time they develop the test and tools, we could already be very well into another ebb going up or a new wave altogether.
Sir, can I add one thing, sir? Maharashtra government has sent samples for genome testing right from March. So March onwards, a batch of 3,500 samples 3 times went till July, 1st July. And out of that, as Sagar said, 50 came out to be Delta Plus. And few of them are in Maharashtra also. So 50 in Maharashtra of Delta Plus is definitely a cause of concern, because the transmissibility factor of this is very high. So definitely government is looking at that passively in epidemiological surveys, and definitely, as you said, it will be a Delta Plus wave in India if at all third wave comes.
Dr. Sinha, post-COVID complications among the adults that we have seen, in fact, we have spoken about mucormycosis, and now we are also hearing of bone deaths or avascular necrosis, as it is called. So are the disease factors keep changing with the variants and the waves?
So I think, we had a great discussion on mucormycosis last time. There were definitely attributable factors like the excessive use of steroids, a possibility of a more vascular involvement in the disease. And third thing, obviously, was we don't have enough information that whether the variants cause the change. Another thing is that as the disease, the number of people infected grows, the number of survivors grow, medical care becomes better, and we see a lot of patients who were sicker who will survive the illness itself. And you could end up seeing newer complications later down the road, which we were not seeing earlier. So I would not attribute that to the variants itself. I would say that, for example, in the very start of the pandemic, patients were just dying on the ventilator within 24 hours. Then a strategy came of delaying ventilator. So as in where our medical care is getting better, more and more patients are surviving. The more survivors we are seeing, more of these newer complications are being reported. Now, whether they are definitely linked to COVID, whether they are linked to patients because of a post-immune depletion of the body, like avascular necrosis, again, all is, like I said, that the data is very clear now. For avascular necrosis, I don't think it's going to be that much of a concern. Although we have a lot of rare complications post-COVID, which we see in our hospital as well. But we are not concerned that there could be systemic complications affecting a wide range of survivors. So I wouldn't start worrying yet.
Dr. Kavani, we hear that vaccines for the children is under trial and is also seeking approval. So, can you please tell us about vaccination for children?
Yeah, so whenever new vaccine comes, trials are always taken in a healthy adult population, and if those are successful, then they are rolled, and then a pediatric age group is taken for trials, and there are various stages of trial stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. So same happened with the COVID vaccine also. Although they appear as safe to license the use in children, even in emergency, we need to have limited trials, and those trials are now luckily they are in stage 3 trials, and we expect that more than 12 years of age children up to 18 years may get soon vaccine in mid-September. Remaining also from 6 years onwards till 12 years also it is in last stage only, and the data will emerge, and the emergency use authorization will happen to them in due course of time. So we expect the vaccine to roll out in children about 12 years soon, and to all children maybe up to December.
As you mentioned earlier, also many of the states are planning to reopen the schools. How do you see this, and what would you like to say on this, especially when the medical experts are warning of the children may getting affected in the third wave?
Yes, keeping the children at home since last 1.5 years has got its own complication more than COVID itself. So at some point of time, we have to take a decision of little opening up for schools, especially for the older classes like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, which are considered as important classes for their career. So as case load increases, always there is a discussion about can we open the school, and can we ask the students to come, at least older children. So every state is thinking of that and planning in that way, because psychological impact of keeping the children all the time at home and online classes, they have got their own, as I said, psychological effects. So Maharashtra state also is thinking of opening the school for older classes 9, 10, 11, 12 in staggered manner, and they are taking the various opinions from the experts of education department and our task force also, how to go about it, whether it will be a hybrid school, like half batch will come to the school and next day other batch will come, and the batch which is at home will continue to have an online class, and then what precautions at school. All these things are going up, and they have defined the criteria of that city or that particular geographical location, how many case load is there, the positivity rate is how much are the hospital beds, oxygenation bed available. All these data will come, and then only they will take the decision. And COVID is going to stay here for longer time. So at one point of time, we need to take a decision about school reopening.
In fact, that was the question that I wanted to ask also, that with so many people now taking the vaccination, the percent compared to the first and the second waves, everybody is eager to know when is COVID-19 going to go, and when can we come back to our normal self? Dr. Sinha.
That is the $1,000,000 question. There have been a lot of opinion pieces about this, and this is one question across the world, whether it's the US, whether it's the CDC there, it's the WHO, the European CDC, the UK NHS. There are two camps. One camp is of the opinion that through vaccination and despite the variants, COVID will become an endemic disease, like how the how H1N1 in about 10 years back it emerged, and within 5 to 7 years it became an endemic disease. The problem with that, it takes 5 to 7 years. The other optimistic side is that look, you vaccinate 80% of the global population within the next 24 to 48 months, and then COVID goes away. But I don't think COVID ever goes away. I think it stays in some form, and I think irrespective of what things may turn out to be 1 year later, I think we do end up all coming up and taking maybe annual booster shots, and especially like how H1N1 and the influenza has become endemic. But I don't see it going away that fast. And even if it does, I think it will depend entirely on the efforts of vaccination, not just in the West, not just in India, but I think globally as well.
Dr.
But I
Gavani,
think
what?
probably, I think by this probably Dr. Mahadik can take a, because sir is the subject
I'm,
expert on community medicine.
Yes.
I'm itching to talk about it, honestly. Look, last influenza pandemic we had 100 years ago. And since then, influenza has been there on and off. Influenza never went away. Even COVID today is a form of influenza only. Influenza has always been with us in an endemic form globally. And so there is no other reason. I don't think there is any other reason why COVID in endemic form will not continue in years to come as well. Maybe it will change its form depending on the mutations, new strains. So influenza has always been there and influenza will always be there. So only thing is the question of magnitude, whether we will continue to have this epidemic in the same magnitude as of now, or it will subside, it will become endemic, become milder, and will continue. But as I think as an epidemiologist, influenza has been there, and influenza will be there in future also, but the nature might change. This is one thing. Then the second thing, Dr. Jitesh Gawane, I have something to ask you. How come a proportion of children in the first and second wave was so small? In fact, they were exposed to perhaps infection as much as the adult population. But still we find that the proportion of children which suffered in two waves was relatively very small. And then what is the reason why we think that in the first two waves, the proportion was very small. In third wave, if it at all it comes, the proportion will be very high. Can you please react on this?
Yes, sir. So the first thing is child is not a miniature adult in any way. So child's physiology is totally different from the adults. So they have the paucity of ACH2 receptors, which is there in the epithelium. That receptors are not well developed in children, and that are required for this hatching of the virus into the system. So there are very less number of ACH2 receptors in children, which makes the virus gain entry into the child's body in sufficient number less likely. Secondly, sir, as I told before, children gets, as you were saying, this SARS-CoV also is a form of influenza. Children gets multiple influenza-like, or we call it as ILI, influenza-like illnesses very often in school or in crowded places, buses. They are the susceptible people, and they catch the infection very fast, fever, cough, cold, multiple times in a year they get exposed. So with that, they develop a kind of innate immunity better than compared to the adult. And that definitely protects them from getting a COVID, which is in severe form. So inbuilt innate immunity and paucity of the ACH2 receptors is one reason why children were less susceptible. And as we said, lockdown, who has sincerely followed is a children only. So definitely the children group is not yet out, sir, and that is a reason why we have still controlled them very well.
Quickly, I would like to, because we are running short of time, I would like to, ask all of you to please tell the general viewers, what would you like to tell your message to the viewers as such, Dr. Gavane?
So never leave the COVID appropriate behavior for next couple of years. That is SMS and V. Safe distance, mask, sanitation, and vaccination of every member, whosoever is there around us. That
Dr.
is my
Sinha?
Yes, ma'am. I think I would like to re-emphasize that vaccine or no vaccine, irrespective of what social media tells you, we have to make our peace with COVID. And I think we owe it to our fellow citizens. You also be over to the doctor so that, we also can take a little bit of a break. That probably, if everybody is kind and cooperative, maybe we can have less stressful days. But no, on a serious note, I think please get vaccinated. Must try to get vaccinated as soon as possible, and please follow COVID appropriate behavior. You're not doing it just for yourself, you're doing it for your community and for your country.
Dr. Mahadik.
My emphasis would be on hand sanitization and mask. We talk a lot about the social distancing, but in a country like India, it has not been practical, and perhaps it will not be practical. So my message to all of my fellow citizens will be to ensure that they put on their mask, number one, and they keep on practicing hand washing as frequently as they can.
Thank you so much for your valuable time, and the viewers. I would also request all of you to please follow all the COVID appropriate behavior, wear mask, safe distancing and hand sanitization. Keep safe, keep healthy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam.
Thank you. Thank you.